Tuesday, June 9th, 2026. If you would all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Do we have roll call?
Randall,
Here.
Osborne,
Here.
West,
Here.
Lewis,
Here.
Swope,
Here.
Wolf,
Here.
Sproul.
Here. We'll move on to item number 2, which is the consent agenda. The listing under consent agenda is a group of items to be acted on with a single motion and vote. This agenda is designed to expedite the handling of limited routine matters by City Council. Either the public or a council member may request that an item be removed from the consent agenda at that time prior to council's vote.
Mr. Mayor,
Gotcha. Yeah, I did. We need a motion on the approval of the agenda.
I move that council approve the agenda as presented for June 9th, 2026.
Second.
Motion made by Swope, seconded by Lewis.
Wolf,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Randall,
yes.
Swope,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Sproul.
Yes. Okay, we'll start over again with the consent agenda. The listing under consent agenda is a group of items to be acted on with a single motion and vote. This agenda is designed to expedite the handling of limited routine matters by City Council. Either the public or a council member may request that an item be removed from the consent agenda at that time prior to council's vote. The mayor will ask if a citizen or council member wishes to have any specific item removed from the consent agenda for discussion. Item number 2A is approval of the meeting minutes from May 26, 2026. Item number 2B, approval of the expenditure list for June 9th, 2026. Item number C, approval of renewal application for a hotel and restaurant liquor license for Rosita Incorporated, DBA Tequilas, 1740 East Main Street, Cortez. Item number D, approval of renewal application for a hotel and restaurant liquor license for Ocean Pearl Cortez, LLC, DBA Ocean Pearl Chinese Restaurant, located at 300 West Main, Cortez. Item number E is approval of a renewal application for a retail liquor store liquor license for Robert E. DeMagata, West Slope Liquors, LLC, DBA West Slope Liquors, located at 2212 East Main Street. I would like to remove item number F from the agenda to be discussed at a later time. I will go ahead and read that. It's approval of a special events permit to Fundamental Needs Incorporated to host 2 special events on July 3rd, 2026 from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. and on July 4th, 2026 from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. in Parque de Vida, Cortez. And I'm going to ask that be discussed later. Item G is approval, H is approval of special events permits to Fundamental Needs. That's just what I read.
Mayor, I think there's a typo on the motion sheet. If you can maybe revert to the actual agenda, I'm
Sure.
sorry.
Yep, no problem. Item number, we're going to be, item number G, I believe. Approval of an application for a Colorado liquor permit sales room from Due West Wines LLC, located at 413 North Linden Street in Cortez. H, approval of the change in premises application for El Compostre Mexican Restaurant LLC, located at 1430 East Main Street, Suite 6, Cortez. I will entertain a motion to accept the agenda. Does anybody from the public have a comment? Anything you want to remove? Nothing, council?
I move that council approve the consent agenda.
Second.
You want to amend your,
I,
he pulled off, he asked that one item be pulled off. So as amended.
As amended. Thank you, Counselor.
motion by Randall, seconded by Lewis.
West,
Yes.
Swope,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes.
Randall, Lewis,
Yes.
Sproul.
Yes. The item I wanted to remove from the agenda was the special events permits because we didn't have enough information. The information was just asking us to okay the event, but we didn't know what the event was. So we asked our activities and Parks and Rec Director, Creighton-Wright to explain that to us, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. At your places is a memo that goes through the schedule of events for July 3rd and 4th. The Parks and Rec Department is working in partnership with Fundamental Needs, who is providing the entertainment for those 2 evenings. The schedule, as shown in front of you, has our programming on July 3rd kicking off at 3 o'clock. With some activities throughout the day, including DJs, food trucks. A volleyball tournament will kick off. Alcohol sales begins at 5 o'clock on that Friday the 3rd, with alcohol sales ending at 8 p.m. A band plays from 5 to 7, as well as another band plays until 9 o'clock. As we move into the 4th of July, this is our entire outline for the day. So there's a lot of stuff that happens in the morning that's mostly prep work. Programming kicks off around the middle part of the day. As it relates to this specific agenda item, alcohol service begins at 12 noon and ends at the start of fireworks, which is 9 p.m. or thereabouts. And then their event with entertainment will end at 10 o'clock. This item is a little bit unique. You're specifically talking about and needing to approve the special event liquor license. Along with that, the Fundamental Needs made a request to me that I considered extending the curfew for the park, which is currently set at 9 o'clock according to code. So we're extending that to 10 o'clock on Saturday, July 4th. With the alcohol service stopping at 9 o'clock. So with that, I will pause there and see if you have any additional questions.
No questions from council? Thank you, Craig. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I think I need to probably get a motion to go ahead and accept item number F.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve an application for a Colorado liquor permanent sales room. Oh, excuse me, I've got the wrong one. I move approval of special events permits to Fundamental Needs Incorporated to host 2 special events on July 3rd, 2026 from 5 to 9 p.m. and July 4th, 2026 from noon to 9 p.m. in Park DeVita Cortez.
I second.
Motion made by Lewis, seconded by
West,
Yes.
Swope,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes.
Randall,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Sproul.
yes. We're going to move on to item number 3, which is public participation. Individuals may comment on items that are in the council agenda during the public participation time. There is no limit to the number of speakers, although public comments will be held to an overall time limit of 30 minutes. Speakers have a time limit of 3 minutes per person, may only speak once, and may not cede time to another commentator. Please, let's see. Do we have anybody? No cards? Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4, which is presentations. I was fortunate enough to meet some runners for an organization that is called the Sri Shimnoi Oneness Home Peace Run. These were a group of people that were from all over the world, and they run a relay with their little torch across the United States and across the world. And Cortez was fortunate enough to have them run through Cortez, and they presented the city of Cortez with a Sri Shimnoi Oneness Home Run Peace Run Certificate of Appreciation. The Sri Shimnoi Oneness Home Run Peace Run is a relay that goes around the world to share the simple message that peace starts in the hearts of each one of us. They have a little poem that they read and they sang to us, and it was very entertaining, and they had a guy really sweating when he come up the stairs, and it was kind of awesome. It says, "Oh, dreamers of peace, come, let us walk together. Oh, lovers of peace, come, let us run together. Oh, servers of peace, come, let us grow together." Sri Shimnoi. And it was very exciting for the city of Cortez to be honored, and we get to share our welcome mat to the people running across the world. Number 5 is public hearings. A, City Council Resolution Number 9, Series 2026. Continued public hearing on a conditional use permit application for a permanent accessory structure that exceeds the maximum square feet allowed in the land use code for property located at 1626 Rolling Road, Cortez, Zone Residential Single Family R1. Our presenter is Jason Armstrong.
I have a conflict with this agenda item, so I'll be stepping out of council chambers.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, Mayor, Council. Tonight, we're bringing before you a continued public hearing on a conditional use permit application. This resolution and public hearing was brought before council for consideration on May 12th. The item was continued to allow for the applicant to redesign their site plan based on public comments and council input. Additional planning department findings are provided to council in the updated staff report. As a reminder, Mike and Cherry Franchini are requesting a conditional use permit to construct a new garage for vehicle and RV storage on their property. Accessory buildings that are proposed to be larger than 800 square feet are required to obtain a conditional use permit. In this case, the proposed garage is to be 1,600 square feet or double the maximum size allowed, necessitating the conditional use permit. The surrounding neighborhood is a mix of typical city R1 lots, some slightly larger, more rural in nature lots, including the Franchinis. The lot is significantly larger than most at 1.29 acres. So some updated planning department findings from the May 12th. At the request of council at the initial hearing on this permit, the applicant has agreed to move the location of the proposed structure to the southern portion of the property to mitigate any perceived impacts to the neighboring property's view shed directly to the north. And I will show you guys a street view so you can see the property. Okay. So here's a view of the property looking south, and
We don't have it yet.
Oh, sorry about that.
Well, that's nice property in Cortez.
Yeah, the garage will go right about there.
Way more water than we have.
That is not that.
For the people in the audience, I can assure you, before he presented this, he had it all there. He watched it, he saw it, and now he's ready to do it, and it's gone.
See, that's what we're seeing. This is it, right?
No,
Oh, what did you want?
here. I got it.
Just PDF?
Sorry, council.
Why isn't that showing? I have no idea why it's not showing.
Sorry about that pause. All right, let me get to the place I wanted to show you guys, which is the street view of the property. Okay, so here is a street view looking to the south. This is from Knoll Avenue. This is the Franchini's property right here. The proposed location is at the southern end of the property. And that, again, that site plan adjustment was made due to public comment and council suggestions. And it is also now a condition of the approval of the conditional use permit that it'll be located there. Next, the structure is proposed for personal storage, including an RV and perhaps a work craft space. Just wanted to let council know that while home occupations are allowed in all zones except for industrial, after an application for a home occupation permit, the land use code only allows for those uses as an accessory to a dwelling unit. So this, if the applicant wanted to use it for a commercial purpose, they wouldn't be able to do that. Next, the property is currently divided into 4 lots. As council appropriately pointed out in the last meeting, as a condition of approval for the conditional use permit, the applicants are going to be required to complete a minor subdivision process to consolidate the property into a single lot to avoid any conflicts with the dimensional standards of the code and negate the possibility of building across existing property lines. And finally, the conditional use permit is not applicable to address the building materials for this garage. The code does not have specific design standards for the type of materials required for permanent accessory structures. The applicant has provided some renderings. I'll show you that. So this is the look of the proposed structure. Just wanted to point out to council that the construction of the garage is going to require a building permit. So approval of the conditional use permit doesn't automatically say that the applicant can build this. They have to go through that process with us. So overall, the underlying findings on May 12th that I provided to you guys are still applicable in that the structure and the lot meet all of the other dimensional standards of the code outside of the total square foot of the structure, which is being addressed through this conditional use permit. Based on the planning findings, staff can recommend that council approve Resolution 9, Series 2026, a resolution approving the conditional use permit with conditions as stated in the resolution, and state any conditions it feels would be necessary to ensure compliance with the land use code. And that'll wrap up my report to you guys. Happy to take questions. The applicant is here if you have questions for them.
I don't see any questions. Thank you, appreciate it. I do want to put for the record that we did receive a letter from Greg Hill in opposition of the building. Is there anybody from the public wish to say anything?
Mr. Chair, I recommend that you allow the applicant.
The applicant would like to, he's certainly welcome.
Didn't hear what they wanted to do. I can't hear them.
Oh, they just wondered if you had any comments you wanted to make on behalf of the application.
I turned in a permit after we talked the last time to break the lot up and make it one large lot. And I'll move it to the south end of the lot as far close as I can, but I can still get in my driveway. Other than that, that's the only thing I can talk, I don't know what else to say.
Thank you. You don't have to say anything. Nobody from the public have anything to say? Nothing? Does council have anything that they wish to discuss?
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate what I mentioned at first reading, and that is there are 4 lots here. The Franchinis could construct a house on on those lots without going through a public hearing, just go through the permit requirements. I think they've made the adjustment of consolidating those lots. We requested a sketch. I know some people were concerned about that. I'm definitely in favor of this. They've got more land. If I remember correctly, that land also slopes down to the south, and I think that's why it was recommended that it be positioned there. So I'm in favor of this.
No, that was during the public participation. You may speak if you wish. Sure. Yeah, well, they misunderstand.
Yeah, my name is Austin. I live across the street. A lot of this stuff we've kind of hammered in multiple times. But I wrote up something that I'd wanted to share today. So yeah, we live at 1702 Rolling Road, so we're right here across the street. And initially, you know, this thing was going to be 100 foot off the curb, which was kind of concerning. But biggest thing that I wanted to point out, that this thing is not just your normal garage, or it's not a house. It's a massive structure. It's almost bordering like an agricultural barn. Like, it doesn't fit into a residential neighborhood at all, in my opinion. And there's other people here that, obviously I'm not here to tell people what they can do with their property. I think that that's not fair, but there's other people here that are in favor, that also have a barn, and doing, you know, nobody's in favor of having somebody run a business in their backyard, whatever it is. This thing's directly in front of our house, and we don't want it, so. That's all I got to say.
You may.
The garage he's talking about is mine. It was approved by all people in the community before they moved in. The household you're talking about right now that they're saying needs to change and stuff was built in the 1950s. It had nothing to do with any of our division before that. That was built well before I was even born. The property they own is a lot. The gentleman there wants to talk about when my shop was built, and everybody agreed. Sir, how old are you?
Now, we just address the council.
Well, okay, I'm sorry, guys. I had my house for 36 years. I don't know how old the gentleman is, but I still believe in freedom of our community in Cortez. Now, you want to go homeowners association, move somewhere else, do something else. He asked for the variance. The variance asked for him to build it specifically for an oversized property. You go straight across right across where it goes, because there's a Homestead Act right beside us that they cannot annex into the city. And all them houses over there are built with steel siding. I don't know it's good, it's bad. And yes, sir, I do have a shop that is a 30 by 40 shop. Many people have these in the city. I was glad, and all my neighbors at that point agreed and said no problem. Apparently, everybody on Shady Lane and across that are way away from this property decided they don't like it, and the neighbors don't like it. So at what point is it hurting their view anyways? Because 90% of these people that are sitting here can't even see that because they're goddamn 3 streets over. I'm sorry.
Could you state your name for the record, please?
Clinton Watson.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments? Nope. Okay, council, does anybody else have any council? Do we have another speaker? Okay.
My name is Greg Heil. I live at 1811 Shady Lane. I'm here to speak to you about the Francini's oversized building. As I wrote, I am opposed to that. I want to thank all the people in the past who have worked on the ordinances and the codes so that all the property owners are protected in this R1 zone. That's what the R1 zone and the codes were made for. And it says right in the beginning that these things are to be adhered to, and they can be adjusted. And Mr. Watson, I talked to him before he built that building, and he told me exactly what he was going to do with it, and I'm fine with that. I don't know what's that. I'm, you know, upset that he's upset with me. I haven't intended to judge in any way his building and what he does there. He came to my house once. Anyway, I want to finish with, if we protect the R1 zones like we've done for the past 50 years, as that subdivision is built, as he said, at least 30-some years ago, according to him, when his house was built, it's for everyone's protection. And I'm concerned that the far-reaching effect will be that other R1 zones where there is property out there that they could build a large building like this on, that they would do that. I also want to say to the Francinis, I appreciate the attempt to find the common ground. And I think that, you know, we could do some more work on that. That maybe it doesn't need to be quite 1,600 feet. I don't know what you know, I don't know. I'm just saying that I do appreciate that, and I understand it. So it's up to you people to decide, is this going to change how our city looks everywhere? Because we change from 800 square feet that we can add to a certain degree, or anyone could build a 1,600-foot square building that has the setbacks and the accesses. Finally, I guess I have 18 seconds. I wondered about the access off of Tucker Road. And that would alleviate maybe the concern about extra traffic up and down Roland. It's something I you know, it's just out there. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public who'd like to speak? If you could say your name for the record, please.
All right, well, my name's Emma Thompson, and I live at 1702 Rolling Road, right across the street. And I do want to say I appreciate the new pictures, the drawings, keeping us informed. I know we were really worried about that prior. Also, the original placement of the site was directly in front of our house. You know, with it being so oversized at 1,600 square feet, 16 feet tall or maybe 20 feet tall based on the permit allotted, that's pretty big, and we were really concerned about how close it was to us. You know, each day we would wake up and look at that. It's not what we wouldn't see, it's about what we would end up seeing as a metal building that's not similar to, you know, the homes in our neighborhood. And while their lot is larger than most, our neighborhood has about 62 homes in it. All of the homes have the same size lot besides theirs. So, you know, while you make an exception for one person, why is it fair for the rest of us? So I do say that I appreciate the, you know, placement of it, but I do want to ensure that it will be built in the back of the lot when we look at that in zone 4 or lot 4, you know, not where it originally was placed. I would also like you to consider maybe decreasing the size. I mean, 1,600 square feet is about the same size of all of our homes in our neighborhood. How does that serve as an accessory dwelling unit? You know, it's very large, it's massive. Maybe they move one day or sell the home. How do I ensure that property doesn't get used for a different purpose, you know, down the line? Like, it could open up other doors. While its intended use is now an RV storage unit, what's to say in 10 years, 15 years, or down the road, you know, when I hopefully still am in my property. So I appreciate, again, you know, the updated images and site plan and all of that, but still at the end of the day, I do oppose the conditions that are currently written and think it should maybe be decreased in size for, you know, future uses or other people to be able to build similar structures in R1 zoned neighborhoods at the end of the day. So thank you for considering my opinion.
Thank you. Anybody else? We are going to close the public comment section if there's nobody else. Public comment session is closed. We're going to open it up to City Council.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for Jason Armstrong. The sketch that Mr. Franchini showed us, if that was 800 square feet, would that meet code?
Yes.
The height and everything, it would
Yeah.
it meet code. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think I asked this at the last council meeting, but Mr. Franchini could take that sketch and he could build 2 of those garages at 800 square feet. And as long as he had the appropriate fire barrier, he could do that without having a public hearing.
That's correct.
So this is where I'm using common sense. It just makes common sense to me to build one structure that is 1,600 square feet, then have this man build 2 garages at 800 square feet. Folks, that's what it comes down to. He can do that. And I think he's made some adjustments to try to be accommodating to his neighbors. And that's why I was saying before, I'm using common sense, and it just seems appropriate that be approved instead of him going to the added expense of building 2 and doing that.
The way the code is written, my understanding, as the plots currently lands, that an accessory dwelling unit, I mean, the language is very vague, so I really do not understand it. But if there's 4 plots, wouldn't you need a primary residence to build an accessory unit?
Yeah, that's right. You have to establish the principal structure, the principal use, before you can establish an accessory use. So to be clear, this is not an accessory dwelling unit, it's an accessory structure, it's permanent.
So as the plots currently stand with 4 plots, you could, is that what it? Lots, thank you. You could not build 2 800-foot garages. You would need to build 1 800-foot garage, 1 primary residence, and a second 800-foot garage.
Yeah, this is why it's a condition of approval to consolidate those lots. And as the applicant indicated, he's already started that process, which is administrative to consolidate the lots. So he's removing those considerations by consolidating it onto 1 lot moving forward. So
okay. Thank you.
That's kind of how it's being addressed.
I'm still, this is such a difficult issue. It came up at my first city council meeting. So I want to apologize to the Franchinis for my freshman status on this issue. And the unfortunate truth is you're just part of my learning lesson, and I'm sorry. My understanding of what a city council's purpose is to act as a quasi-judicial board that we take, and when we think of quasi-judicial, we're not judges, we didn't go to law school, but we're supposed to take our expert testimony, which is Planning and Zoning Commission. We're supposed to take the impacted parties, the victims, crime victims, families, their testimony into stake, right? So public comment, our expert recommendations, and then look at the letter of the law or our zoning, our codes, and make a determination based on those 3 things. I'm also, as I was sitting with this, thinking about, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? Thinking about what's the purpose of city council like what's the moral purpose, right? And I think it's about public trust, that we have these systems in place so everyone can kind of understand what they're getting into and protect everyone's property rights. Because I also keep coming back to like the things I want to do with my property, and I don't want to go to the city and have to ask for permission and do things, and it's my property, like who cares? But it's also everybody's property rights, your neighbors too. And my neighbors do things I don't appreciate, and I have to let them be who they are as well. And it's hard to live with neighbors, and sometimes I fantasize about moving out to the county. Who doesn't? What it comes down to is we've heard our expert analysis originally was to deny. It has changed with these amendments and conditions. I question if maybe we add some landscape conditions to mitigate the impacts of a visible structure. Our impact statements requested a denial. There were some for permitting this, but by and large, the arguments were against. We heard numerous arguments against, which cited irregular size compared to the neighborhood, which violates a section of the code, aspects F4 and F1, if you're interested, of a conditional use criteria. So the conditional use criteria, I do think it violates. The impact statements, I do hear a denial. I'm a little iffy on the expert analysis on whether to deny or approve, but just taking that quasi-judicial aspect and taking my personal beliefs out of it, I will have a hard time voting yes on this.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, the staff recommended approval at P&Z and at the last council meeting, and is also recommending approval today with the additional changes that the applicant has made. So the recommendation for denial was made by the P&Z. Obviously, P&Z has not seen the changes that are being presented today, but the staff did recommend approval at all three stages.
I thought we were understanding that P&Z would review that before it came back to us tonight.
No, we decided that we were going to go ahead and do that, Angie. Because we were the ones that suggested the changes, so it was up to council to make that decision.
So I think it's important that we delineate the two things. What's come before us today is a conditional use permit request, and P&Z is a sort of a separate issue. So I haven't seen a more passionate group of neighbors since my time on council, so congratulations to you all. It's very evident. I will say this, though. Number one, this is in a way, it's a historic property, not officially designated as such, but the family has owned it for years and years and years. And I'm not sure as far as the time frame, as far as when the subdivision was developed and incorporated or whatever, but this is a unique property within your subdivision, and that it entails 1.4 acres. It's not your standard lot size. And those 4 lots are going to be incorporated into this 1.4 acres piece. The character of your subdivision I'm very aware of, and and a couple of members of council have gone out and looked at this property prior to coming up with any decision, just to see what the lay of the land was. This property sits at the end of the road. The request for having this approval for this conditional use permit is for a larger size building by twice the size, which is a little bit daunting. However, it isn't, in my opinion, completely in character with that property, and particularly with the location of the proposed location, moving it to the south end of the property. I've heard a couple of times today and throughout the pieces of data and letters that we've received from you and read them and truly considered about an increased amount of traffic. This is a private individual. You're not going to see your traffic increase whatsoever. He wants a place to work on his things, and he wants a place to store his RV. Views, as we heard previously, and which is true, are not a protected issue. It's not, he could build it again. He could build something across the street from you. And I get what you're saying, you want to preserve your views. But this is 3 lots away, the way it's going to sit right now. I do believe in the individual right to use your property as much as you can, and if you don't like what your neighbor's doing with this property, then you probably need to be in a more HOA situation. You're passionate, but he's accommodated. I am in favor of this as it stands.
Mr. Mayor, if there's no further discussion, I move that City Council approve Resolution Number 9, Series 2026. A resolution approving the conditional use permit for a permanent accessory structure exceeding 800 square feet on property located at 1626 Rolling Road, zone residential, single-family R1, with the conditions as stated in the resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Lewis, seconded by Randall.
Osborne is not here. Swope,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes.
West,
No.
Randall,
Yes.
Sproul.
Yes. Okay, we're going to move on to ordinance number B. Ordinance number 1368, Series 2026. The City Council will consider a budget amendment appropriating... Oh, excuse me, we need Claire. Here she comes. Clarissa. Okay, item number B, ordinance number 1368, series 2026. The City Council will consider a budget amendment appropriating $294,000 for city potable water to irrigate city park areas and the golf course. Our presenter is Creighton Wright, Director of Parks and Recreation.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. You may recall at our last council meeting, I gave a very brief introduction on this topic. I am planning on doing a little bit of a rehash to that and then going into the information in depth and detail for you before bringing it back for council for questions towards the end. As the mayor mentioned, this is an ordinance which thus does require a public hearing. As you probably learned from me from the last meeting, I like to be very deliberate about these kinds of things. So bringing back the same slide I showed you in May, we've already gone through the first reading, so we're on to the second reading. I'll be doing that presentation here in a second. Provide you the opportunity to ask any questions of me. Then I'd encourage the mayor to open the public hearing, get the feedback from the community if there is any. Close the public hearing, bring it back to council for deliberations. You can certainly ask me more questions at that point before acting on the topic at the end. So as an overview of this issue, our irrigation, several of our parks and the golf course are watered with irrigation water, and with the limited snowpack and snow melt this year, we're told that the water is going to run out earlier than normal. It should be end of June, early July, although we have some encouraging news that it may last a little bit longer than originally anticipated. That'll give us 3 months that we still need to figure out how we're watering things, our landscape areas. So this item ultimately provides you an option to consider to maintain our irrigation and our spaces, our parks and landscape areas. So in the end, I am proposing that we appropriate restricted funds in the amount of $294,000 from the general fund reserve to the parks and golf irrigation accounts. That addition of restricted is something that changed from the first reading to the second reading. The finance director recommended that we add in this consideration of restricted funds with the intent that it can only be used for water. So should funds be transferred, it can't be used for anything else in any of our budget line items other than the water that's identified in the ordinance. And I just went through the action. So background, our areas that are irrigated with this irrigation water include the parks in this area, Parque de Vida, Centennial, Veterans Park, the eastern two islands of Montezuma, the Montezuma Median, Kiwanis Park, the golf course, and the South Softball Complex. These sites are all what's known as dual plumbed. We can take either irrigation water or city potable water to each of those sites. I have to say it's a little bit of the genius of the way this system was originally designed and installed 30 plus years ago. We're still benefiting from some very smart thinkers back then. So what's got us to this point and what that impact is? So there's really three factors that are playing into where we're at. The first is a drought that's been going on for, depending on who you ask, could be forever, but more recently, the last couple of years, this winter, low snowfall, and then because of low snowfall, limited runoff, which has resulted in limited irrigation water availability. At current, MVI has identified our allocation at 37%. That's what is equating to water being cut off at the end of June or early July. Again, we have some encouraging rumors going on that that'll likely be extended, but nothing has been official yet. So that leaves us with 3 months of irrigation we need to figure out how to do. I had one of our staff members at the advice of Manager Sanders create this graphic trying to depict our water sources as well as our water uses that we own effectively in the McPhee Reservoir. On the left-hand side of the graphic, you'll see it's identified as untreated irrigation water. So there's a portion of the water that's in the lake that it never gets treated. It goes straight out, effectively a really big straw into ditches and so on to irrigate agricultural properties. And for us, the city owns 177 MVI shares that we use for the parks, golf course, and landscape areas. On the right side of the graphic, it's called municipal and industrial water. That is the water that is set aside for drinking water for the city. Not only us, but Dove Creek, and we process water for Toyoak as well. So that is our share of the drinking water that's in McPhee. You'll notice that the two sides, one of them is lower than the other. That's because we have quite a bit of available M&I water resources in the lake that we're not actively using. And with that in mind, the very top section up there, that little graphic, actually is calling out the 1,000 acre feet of water that council approved leasing back to DWCD here a month or so ago. And that's going into the irrigation side of the water. So that action that you took is kind of represented with that little graphic and the water spilling over. So moving over to the treated water, the use on the bottom, primarily that's for residential, commercial, and industrial. That's city water. We can also use that for landscape and parks. The one really big thing I want to call out on the bottom is the cost comparison. For our 177 shares of irrigation water on an annual basis, our maintenance fees on those is in the neighborhood of about $12,000. For half of our irrigation system on city irrigated or city potable water is, my request to you tonight is $294,000. So very big difference. We are very, very lucky and fortunate to have MVI in existence to be able to have access to that water. It is a humongous savings for us, as well as, I think, the farmers and ranchers in our surrounding area. So moving into our proposal. So when the irrigation water cuts off, whenever that is, June, July, perhaps August, the proposal is to switch to city potable water and to put some conservation efforts in play. The conservation that we're proposing is our inner parks, so that's this area, Parque de Vida, Veterans, Centennial, Kiwanis. We would reduce our water use by 40% of what we normally use irrigation water for. We'd be focusing that water mostly, or a lot, on the functional turf areas. So that's the sports fields primarily, soccer fields, baseball fields, etc. The areas in the surrounding, the more, I'll say, decorative turf areas will not get quite as much water. We'll cut those back some. Moving over to the golf course and South Softball Complex, we're proposing to reduce that by 20% in each of them. It effectively results in about a day of irrigation being cut off of what our normal schedule is. We do not expect that 20% reduction will make a significant impact on, for the golf course, the playability. It should still be enough water that the grass will stay greenish, mostly green. Same with the South Softball Complex. The park areas, the functional turf areas, the same. We expect them to remain greenish. It'll be the surrounding areas that we'll start seeing more of the yellow around it. So what do we need in order to switch over to the city water? It's a whole lot of big numbers, but effectively we need about 1.5 million gallons a week for the inner parks. The South Softball Complex is about 200,000 gallons. The golf course needs about 2.4 million gallons per week. We have been in regular communication with the water treatment plant to ensure that this isn't a significant impact on them, and they have assured me that they can certainly generate the amount of water that we need. Back to the genius of our design, the golf course and our inner parks, having the pond set up the way that we do, allows us to run city water into those ponds at a slow rate that can be rebuilt over 24 hours, as opposed to the on-demand need that we would have in an individual night for irrigation. We'll run in each of the two sites about 600,000 gallons of water in a night in an irrigation cycle. If the water treatment plant had to produce that in the 8 hours or so window, that would be hard for them. Being able to pump that water into the pond and it flows throughout the day at a lower rate makes it really easy for the water treatment plant to keep up. So now moving on to our assumptions, in order to come up with this plan, I had to make effectively some guesses on what our actual need was going to be. So I'm going to walk you through those assumptions. The first one is that we'll begin watering around the 1st of July. Now again, encouraging news, that's likely going to be delayed, and that might not be July 1, it'll be sometime later, which will mean that it won't cost us as much. We'll water, our irrigation season typically runs until the end of September. That's watering for 13 weeks. We'll do the conservation measures that I mentioned. We are anticipating and planning on cutting back on irrigation around the 1st of September. That's when it starts cooling off and our water need reduces after that. Not expecting a lot of monsoon rains, so we get monsoon rains, again, our water need will go down and therefore the cost will go down. This is effectively a worst case scenario. Basically, if we have no rain, no moisture, no nothing for the next three months, this is what it's going to take for us to keep our parks and golf course usable. And the one serious caveat, there are several of our sites that do not have access to irrigation water. We're planning on keeping that schedule as it has been in the last several years. So now to the cost. Based on the need for the quantity of water, it shakes out to about $122,000 in parks and $172,000 for the golf course. Originally, when considering this, started thinking about how or if I could come up with the funding in order to support this. I got to about $40,000 and cutting off a bunch of stuff, and I just couldn't go any further. So really, ultimately, the solution here is to tap into city reserves to be able to fund this and put this aside in that restricted contingency, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. So I'm trying to jump into council's minds a little bit and anticipate the kinds of questions and or concerns that you may have. So this information wasn't in the presentation, but I thought it might be something at the top of your minds. So I'm going to walk through a couple of questions that you may be considering. Can we reduce the amount of water less than what the staff recommends? You certainly could. However, that starts impacting, based on our opinion, start impacting the functionality of those spaces, specifically the golf course and the playable turf areas. Will start suffering and may not be playable, usable if we start reducing beyond that. Could we not water certain areas at all for the rest of the year? Again, we could. However, in my experience, if we don't water in the hottest part of the season, we run the risk of killing grass, killing trees, and it frankly will take longer and more expensive to bring that stuff back when we have access to water. I've already kind of mentioned this, but we're fortunate to have access to MVI and a really great design. I mean, really, we need to thank our forefathers because this is a very thoughtful plan, the way the system is designed, and it really is helping us in a really tough spot. Could we remove turf in non-functional areas? Yes, we could. However, this is virtually impossible to do in the short term, meaning 3 months that we have. It really needs to be a longer term strategy that is thought through and planned out over a couple years and then implemented. And by the way, I'll tell you, it'll be expensive too. I've done it before. It's not as cheap and the silver bullet that everyone thinks it is. And then, so what is the level of irrigation we have going right now? So our inner parks right now are running at 90% of full. We have full irrigation water right now. We haven't kicked it all the way up yet. The main reason for that is the asterisk that's there is that we're having some pretty significant issues keeping the system running appropriately right now. The system is more than 30 years old. We have parts that are failing on us pretty significantly. And so our irrigation specialist is really struggling to keep it running. So across the street at 90%, it should be green, and you'll see yellow streaks throughout it. It's because we have a couple zones that aren't functioning properly. The golf course just went to 100% this week. So the golf course is in pretty good shape. It's green. I went out and drove it, went on a golf cart last week. It looks pretty good right now. So does this put stress on the water treatment plant? I've already addressed it. Because of our design, it doesn't really. So now I'm wrapping up the issue. That'll bring it back to you for questions and or opening it up to public comment. So again, this issue addresses us not having irrigation water when it's shut off, whenever that might be. It's important because our community really values our parks, our landscapes, our golf courses. And frankly, I hear about it all the time that was the reason why they moved to this town, is the parks and the rec center and that kind of stuff. And the solution is to transfer in funds, restricted funds, into the water accounts at each of the parks and the golf course to end up funding the city water when we transition. So I would open it up for questions from council, and as a reminder, when council no longer has questions, that this is a public hearing, that you'll need to open it up to see if the community has any comments or questions, and then close it and bring it back, and I can certainly answer more questions at that time.
I think one of your slides said it was going to be $172,000 to water the golf course, and that it would be from July through October?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, that would be through the end of September is what we're planning on at this point.
So that would be July, August, 3 months, $172,000. How much would the golf course generate in that amount of time?
Boy, I wish I would have read that report I got last week. So we're about halfway in our revenue right now. So the golf course generates around $650,000 in revenue each year. We've made about half of that. So don't quote me on this, but I would guess that we've made about $300,000 thus far this year. We have about another $300 to $350 to still collect. And I will say that we are on pace to exceed our revenue target by about 10% right here today.
I don't want to take that as that I'm advocating closing the golf course. I am not. I just kind of wanted to know what the figures were going to be. And we're not going to be making as much money. But I hope, and I think you probably know this too, we may not have to use all of this money. And I want the public to know that too. And we're fully aware that we budgeted for the worst and hope for the best. Correct?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, absolutely. And this is absolutely a worst case scenario based on all the assumptions that I shared with you. Any one of those are going to save us money, whether it's a cooler September or monsoon rains or MVI gets extended for a certain, all of those start cutting this number off. I mean, hypothetically, there is even a chance that maybe we don't need hardly any of it, depending on how long MVI gets extended. This is absolutely a worst case scenario.
Just out of my own curiosity, do you know the percentage of that 294,000, what that is of the reserves?
That I do not. I would have to defer to Manager Sanders to see if he might know.
I didn't understand the question very well. If you could ask again.
What's the percentage, that 294,000, what percentage is that of the total reserves?
Of the total reserves, it's minimal.
Okay.
That was my question as well, is that a significant portion of the reserves, and it sounds like
No, it's not. I mean, it's something to pay attention to, but yeah, it's not going to hurt our reserve position.
Can you comment, Creighton, on the sites that don't have access to irrigation water?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember West, in what way? How do you mean?
You just mentioned in your presentation that sites that don't have access to irrigation water, nothing would change. And it kind of pinged in my head like, oh, I didn't know that that was even a thing.
Yes, so we have, let's think off the top of my head. So so you're talking about what locations don't have access to it? Is that what you're referring to?
I guess so. My understanding, my assumption, not understanding, assumption was that outdoor public lands were irrigated with untreated, non-potable water. And it's news to me that there are sections of our city that are watered with treated water. And looking at that cost analysis, jumping ahead, my thought was like, well, if those are like, the little sidewalk berms or like things that maybe could be re-landscaped intentionally or...
yeah, I understand the question. Thank
watering.
you. Yeah, so we currently have the western 2/3 of the Montezuma median is watered with city water, Montezuma Park, the two pocket parks, and the South Neighborhood Park, the old high school site. Those are all on city water, and they're watered on city water because we can't get irrigation water to them.
I was hoping you'd say the 7th Street City Park with intentions, looking at the rest of our agenda, with intentions to transform that space. Might it be advisable to not water that section?
I'm going to jump in. That is used by over 100 children every night.
But if it's like, if we're going to break ground on a new site, it doesn't...
That park won't be part of it.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, so I think just to wrap up that item on non-irrigation water sites, we have a irrigation schedule on each of those locations. We're not at this point planning on changing that. It will maintain, we'll run it the same way we have for the last several years.
And I just want to be very clear, my intention is not to like cut off parks for children. That goes against everything I believe in. I just was thinking if we're irrigating land that's going to be dug up in several months, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
You're absolutely right. I wish that was irrigated, but unfortunately, financially, we can't afford it right now. And but it would be nice if it was irrigated. This was a second reading, so I'm going to open it up to anybody in the audience that would like to comment.
I had one question.
Oh, go
So
ahead.
in the event that we didn't need to use that amount of money, would that amount of money go back to the reserves at that time? Okay, thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Swoop, that's the restricted part of that caveat. It can't be spent on anything else other than water, so anything unspent goes back to reserve.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, well, we'll open it up for public hearing. Anybody have anything they would like to say? Back to council. Anything council would like to add?
Yeah, I'd just like to state a few things. I know the question came up, Mayor, by you, how much revenue. I just happen to have some numbers because of the golf advisory meeting. The revenue is approximately $420,359 compared to $374,637 in 2025. So again, it goes up. But with all the parks, we can't look at it just as revenue. What's really important regarding the golf course is if you lose a green, you've lost your business, and if we don't keep that golf course green, we're gonna have a reduction in revenue. And we've got the biggest golf tournament coming up in August, the Pinto Bean, and that's where we have many people from outside the city that come here to compete, and they stay overnight, and they eat out and spend a lot of money. And we need to keep that course as green as we can, considering the conditions, or we may have people that won't come back. And that's one thing, and that applies to our softball fields. They have softball tournaments. They have people, families that come in and spend money here. So I really appreciate Creighton and Jenny and everyone that went through this process, because this was a lot of work to compile all those numbers. And in my opinion, this is what general fund reserve is meant for. It's for emergencies like this, and we are extremely fortunate to have a balance of, I want to say it's like 5 million, or am I correct?
Thereabouts.
Thereabouts.
Rolls. Yeah.
But we're very fortunate in having the capability to do things like this. So I am totally in favor. I really appreciate your efforts here and how you're appropriating more water to those areas that have high usage or high need. So again, thank you.
Mr. Wright, can you expound a little bit on how letting things go dry can kill trees which can't be replaced over years, and the fragility of a golf course's turf?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Randall, once so golf course is like an extreme example of what I'm about to share. So in our parks, if we lose a patch of grass, it maybe will come back if we end up getting water back on it within a relatively short amount of time. But generally speaking, it's going to be lost, and it's going to likely be infilled with weeds that we then have to remove, and then we have to, it's just this whole cycle about being able to maintain something is much easier than having to bring it back from death effectively. Trees is a really good example. If we lose a tree, I mean, really, we have to take it out completely and then replant something. And now we've lost, depending on the age of that tree, 40, 50, 60 years of growth having to do with that tree. And there's a lot of value. And I mean, there's studies that have started to come out about the value of trees and what they provide for not only financial value, but also the kind of environmental value of the spaces around there. And we've unfortunately been in a position the last couple of years of having to remove some trees that were on their way out of dying on their own. And it's an unfortunate thing that we have to do. We need to be in the habit of adding more trees as opposed to doing things that are going to eliminate them. So I think going back to the golf course, losing a green, I understand that one of our surrounding courses ran into some irrigation problems 2 years ago, and they're still struggling to bring back the fairway and the greens where that issue happened. It's not a simple process. It's long and it's expensive, so it's just, again, maintain things the right way and you don't have to rebuild them.
If there's no further questions, I move that council approve on second and final reading ordinance 1368, series 2026, an ordinance approving a budget amendment and appropriating $294,000 for city potable water to irrigate the park areas and the golf course.
Second.
Motion made by Lewis, seconded by Randall.
Wolf,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Randall,
Yes.
Swope,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Sproul.
Yes. Moving on to item number C, which is ordinance 1367, series 2026.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, Creighton. City Council will consider on second reading ordinance number 1367, series 2026, an ordinance to adopt the 2024 International Code Council, ICC codes, and the 2023 National Fire Protection Association, NFPA code, and the 2023 Colorado Model Electric Ready and Solar Ready Code as amendments to Chapter 6, Article 1 of the City Code of the City of Cortez, the City Code. Our presenter is Jason Armstrong.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Council again. As the Mayor mentioned, this is second reading for Ordinance 1367. Once again, I'll be joined by our Chief Building Official, Mr. Sean Canada. He's here to answer deep questions on content around all of these codes that you can see. So based on discussion with Council on first reading, the staff report that I provided you this evening expands information from the original one, first reading, and particularly as it relates to the 2023 Colorado Model Electric Code, and then some resulting input from the city attorney. So just a really high overview of the codes. For the International Code Council codes and the National Fire Protection Association codes, periodically municipalities must update their current adopted codes to the newest version to keep up with building industry standards, or if there are legislative mandates in place directing them to do so. While the state of Colorado does not dictate that municipalities update their codes on specific schedules as other states do, the best practice is to adopt codes within 2 to 3 cycles of the publication updates. These model code bodies publish on regular schedules, which creates an informal rhythm. In regards to the 2023 Model Electric Ready and Solar Ready Code, in 2022, the Colorado General Assembly adopted House Bill 1362, which established a statewide building energy code requirement intended to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from new construction. The legislation applies to jurisdictions that maintain building codes. The trigger rule. So When a municipality updates any of its building codes, it is legally required to adopt the state's latest energy standards. So under the law, municipalities and counties that adopt updated building codes between July 1st of 2023 and June 30th of 2026 are required to adopt and enforce the 2021 International Energy Conservation Code or equivalent or higher performance energy code, and then also the Colorado Model Electric Ready and Solar Ready Code or equivalent provisions. So some key reasons why the city should consider updating the ICC and NFPA building code. Safety and structural improvements are addressed. Energy efficiency is addressed in the updated codes. It accounts for modern materials and construction methods. There's consistency with state and regional requirements. Legal liability and exposure, and I'll speak to that a little bit more in detail later. Accessibility standards, ADA. Indoor air quality and health. Financing and insurance incentives, speak to that as well. And permitting and inspection efficiency. So some key reasons the city should consider adopting the 2023 Colorado Model Electric and Solar Ready Code, and these are the updates I provided in my staff report for you guys. Obviously, there's the statutory non-compliance with HB 22-1362. Already spoke about the trigger rule. The consequences of remaining on older codes effectively blocks the municipality from making any legal amendments to its building regulations without being forced to leapfrog several versions of the energy code all at once. There's also a potential loss of local electrical jurisdiction. So the Colorado State Electrical Board has the authority to oversee electrical inspections statewide. Municipalities can maintain their own inspection programs only if they adopt and enforce the current version of the National Electric Code. We currently have the state complete our electrical inspections, but this would also apply to plumbing code, and we do those inspections. Financial and insurance impacts. This one particularly can impact the community. Municipalities' building code effectiveness is a key component of the insurance services office rating. This ISO evaluates community building departments through building code effectiveness grading schedules. Outdated codes can result in a lower score, and many insurance companies use these scores to set premiums. So an outdated code environment suggests higher risk for fire, structural failure, wind damage, leading to higher commercial and residential insurance rates for our citizens. And finally, legal liability and life safety. So from a risk management perspective, failing to update codes creates known hazards. In litigation following a structural failure or fire, a municipality may face scrutiny if it knowingly enforced standards that were recognized as obsolete and unsafe by the wider engineering community. And so one other item for council to discuss this evening. The city attorney has provided you with a memo discussing the waiver exemption process for the electric ready and solar ready codes. In certain cases, the city is currently authorized through the code to receive requests from applicants asking for waiver from the requirements. According to section 102.2, substantial cost differential waiver, the city of Cortez is permitted to authorize upon appeal a waiver from the requirements of the code for an applicant that asserts that compliance with this code will result in substantial cost differential. So when authorizing such a waiver, the city is permitted to waive certain requirements only until the cost differential for compliance with the remaining requirements reaches 1% or less. The code does not specify whether or not city council or staff has the authority to approve appeals and waivers of the application of the code. So council may want to clarify who has the authority to approve appeals and waivers in this instance. My recommendation is to adopt Ordinance 1367, Series 2026. An ordinance adopting the ICC codes, the NFPA code, and the Colorado Model Electric Ready and Solar Ready codes on second reading with any additions, insertions, or deletions as determined by council. So that concludes my report. I'll open it up for questions, and Mr. Canada is here as well to support.
Mr. Coleman, thank you for interpreting the 2023 Colorado Model. I think any council member up here is not in opposition to adopting any of the International Code of Council recommendations, including fire, building, plumbing, and all that. I had a question predominantly that I asked to you about what this waiver would look like for the city regarding a substantial cost differential. So I think in the papers that came down from the state, or in the code that came down from the state, it said that it could be waived if there was a substantial cost differential of 1% or less. I'm not sure how I interpret that. So if somebody's building a house and it's going to cost them $300,000, right? How does that work? If they don't want to put in the extra conduit, the extra spaces, the extra wiring for the electric ready, not just for vehicles, but for an electric stove, which is supposed to be mandated by the state, which is mandated that they put this in, that they put the wiring in, even if they're going to have a gas stove. So how much of a $300,000 house cost can be waived under this?
Well, it's the cost of construction, so that would not include the cost of the land. And it details what cost you consider, and then you take 1% of that, and it would be the applicant for the waiver. It would be their responsibility to submit a detailed analysis of what the costs are and what portion of that this code was impacting, so that they could say, okay, the code's gonna up my deal by $5,000, and 1% is $3,000, so I want a waiver. I think we would, and again, you have to determine if that's something you want council to consider. I think based on staff discussions, it might be appropriate for a staff determination. It's essentially applying the requirements and calculating the numbers, and then reviewing the appeal form that is filled out by the builder. And so that if they meet the criteria that's in the code, their approval could be granted. And I would, obviously the council can reserve that authority for itself. And I think staff probably recommends that bring every appeal in that regard for every single house, because it would have to be on a home-by-home basis, or not a subdivision or development-wide basis. So you might see several appeals, which you may want to see, but certainly you have that authority, and the code does not specify who makes the decision. So I think what staff's asking tonight is that perhaps you make that decision and include that as an amendment to this ordinance, specifying who makes the decision. I think internally staff can come up with the form and the process for submittal, and depending on who approves it, whether it has to go to Planning Commission first or straight to council. But certainly, I think, you know, the calculation, that they would have to use numbers that, you know, this is where I think Mr. Canada may come into play, determine if he thinks their numbers are accurate and reflect, you know, the generally accepted numbers for the economy at the time of the application.
Thank you. Can I just drill down on that just a little bit? So if we have a $300,000 construction only, land is not included in that, $300,000 build-out price for that house. So 1% is going to be $3,000. If the total cost of doing the upgrades that are required in the Colorado Model Electric Ready and Solar Ready code are $6,000, right? So we've got a difference of $3,000 there. Does that mean that the homeowner must include that additional $3,000 into that $300,000 price? So it would bring his price up from, we're just throwing numbers out here, but would bring his price up from, instead of $300,000 and versus the $306,000, it would bring it to $303,000. Is that your interpretation?
Well, if the amount was, in your instance, 2%, which sounds like what you're suggesting, is if they determine that the amount necessary to comply with this new code will increase their cost by 2%, they can just pay it and presumably pass it on to the home buyer, or they can apply for a waiver. And it's not a proportional waiver, so they don't get a waiver of 3,000, but they have to pay 3,000 because you can't partially comply with the code. So if you get a waiver, all 6,000.
It's all 6,000.
waived. Yeah.
I think what's the confusing part of this here is the 1%. Right, so what I'm hearing is up to 1%, you're going to have to eat it, but after 1%, you can apply for a waiver.
Exactly.
Okay, thanks.
Can I just interject? Because the way I read that, it's not the cost of the home minus the land, it's the cost of the mechanical.
Yeah.
So it's your plumbing, it's your electrical, it's your HVAC. It's not the cost of the roof, it's not the doors.
Okay.
It's just that portion.
Yeah.
So that really reduces that. Now,
Elements of-
now it's up to the builder to come up with that cost. And then if this exceeds 1% of that price,
Gotcha.
not the home.
Exactly,
I
not the
wanted to make
total
that
construction.
clarification.
So, I mean, typically speaking, I'm not a builder, but my understanding is the cost of that portion of the building of the home, right? The mechanical, the electric, the plumbing, right, is gonna run, what, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. So so that's the only portion of this that's gonna be applicable to
And-
the 1%. So that would put it at one,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the elements are all spelled
right,
out
okay,
in code, so you're correct, Councilmember Lewitz, that
thanks, Bill.
it doesn't include the cost of the lumber or the roof or those items.
I think I fully agree with Councilmember Randall and this discussion around, what I'm hearing is we don't want unintentionally to pass ordinances that increase the costs of homes, right? We want, many factors contribute to rising costs of homes. This can be one of them. We don't want to see the rising costs of homes. It seems that the overall calculation, as I'm thinking about this, there's probably like a tipping point where the size of the home, the electrical needed, begins to creep over that 1%. Seems like the waiver calculation could be part of the existing building permit process. And I'm wondering if our experts here have comments on that. Do you think that would be feasible to include the waiver process or calculation as part of the building permit?
I think it should be part of the building permit, yes, ma'am.
Should we include that in our motion?
Yeah, and obviously if it's part of the building permit, you don't see building permits, they're approved administratively by staff. So I think that would be the recommendation, is that the waivers occur at the staff level, and, you know, certainly if they disagree with the staff, because the staff may look at their numbers and say, yeah, you're giving too much weight on the cost of the HVAC or something, and that pushed you over 1%, but we don't think you're over 1%, so we're gonna deny the waiver. They would have the opportunity to appeal that to council if we set up a process like that, but I think at this point, you know, administratively, it would seem logical to have it implemented by staff at the building permit stage.
Thanks. I have one other question, comment, and I want to have some input from staff and from city manager. But the Colorado Model Electric Ready, Solar Ready Code has not anything in there listed as far as safety or all. It's stating that you're going to have to build extra room in your house, extra square footage, in order to accommodate an electric stove if we get to the point where you have to have them. And we're going to have the infrastructure in there for an electric stove and electric heating and solar panels on the roof. So I'd like you, and I heard your impassioned justification based on insurance possibly, but this code has nothing to do with safety or fire or anything to do that I can determine. If I'm wrong, please correct me.
No, you are correct. All fire life safety issues are handled through the body of the building codes themselves. The Model Electric Code has nothing to do with fire life safety.
So our biggest risk, if we choose not to go with the Colorado Model Electric Ready and Solar Ready Code, is that we might be shooting our foot in as far as future applications for grants and the like? Is that what I'm hearing? I mean, in reality.
My understanding is we have to adopt all of the codes, and that if we don't adopt those specific ones, we can't adopt the fire protection and other things. Is that correct, Mr. Canada?
In essence, yes. If we change a code and go to a new cycle, we are required by the state to adopt this.
Right, but that is, we are currently participating in all the other electric, plumbing, mechanical codes, but we are not participating in this one, but because it just came out, and we're supposed to adopt it now. But being a home rule city, we have the option of not doing that. But we have to be able to accept the consequences and what they truly are. Am I wrong in that, Counselor?
No, you're correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just had a question about, you mentioned that the city does their own plumbing inspections. What are the pros and cons of being able to do your own electrical inspections? Do you have staffing for that? Do we have budget for staffing for that? Do we get paid from the contractors for that? How does that work?
Currently, we do not have the capability of doing the electrical inspection. None of us have the training or the certifications. That's one of the reasons we leave it to the state. They're a little bit slower than what we are because we're local. If somebody calls for any inspection, we're there that same day. With the state, it's usually a week to 2 weeks before they come and do their inspection. And if you fail, you're going through another couple weeks. At this time, I don't have anybody on staff that would be capable of doing it.
That's not necessarily something that you mentioned you would have the capability, but you're not necessarily looking to have the capability.
Correct. The other issue, just to clarify, we do the plumbing inspection, which is also a state mandated. We could have left that to the state, but we have chosen, and we have always done the plumbing. If we do not follow the Model Electric Code, they could, in essence, say, then we're taking over the plumbing inspections and permitting also.
Do we receive any revenue from that?
We do.
Okay.
I think we need to approve all of these, including the solar, because I'm concerned that that puts the city at risk by not approving that, and could have repercussions on homeowners insurance, et cetera.
Bill, council member, I would challenge that a little bit in that there's no safety issues having to do with the Colorado Electric Ready Code. There's no safety issues at all. Those are all contained in the fire and the plumbing and the heating and the electric. I would just say this, I'm totally opposed to anything that is, we're speaking with two tongues here. We're speaking, we want affordable housing, right? And yet, at the same time, and the city and the state is mandating that we have affordable housing, and we're pushing this down at the same time that our housing costs are going up. And here we're putting in, by adopting this, we're saying you have to have X amount of extra square foot, you have to extra amount of conduit to accommodate what this has in it. 100 years ago, in most cities of the United States that were medium to large size, they had a very workable mass transit system in them. They were electric trolley cars and railroads that were functioning and carried the majority of Americans to their jobs that were working in those cities. When the developers of the private vehicle came in, they effectively lobbied cities and legislations across the United States and had those things torn out. So by the end of World War II, moving into the 40s and 50s, those systems were torn out, all because they were promoting personal vehicle use. And that's a perfect example, in my opinion, of something being shoved down our throats that is, we don't know the full ramifications of this. If someone wants an electric charging vehicle station in their home, they can have one put in if they want, and it's all perfectly good. I believe we've been sold a bill of goods that states that we are pushing towards electric at a time when we've got data centers coming in, when we've got hydroelectric issues, when we've got all sorts of issues. I agree with moving forward on the other codes and getting those up to date. I'm not sure. In fact, I'm almost convinced 100%, but I'm open to any further debate if anybody has anything else about this Colorado Model Electric Ready, Solar and Ready code. So that's where I stand.
If we adopt one code, do we have to adopt all of this?
Not necessarily. I mean, the current cycle of codes need to be all about the same. So going from the 2015, which we're currently on, to the 2024, it's best to just do all of them.
Is that your recommendation?
Yes.
Wow. I think Councilmember Randall has an excellent point, and I love the dialect we've got going on here. This is what councils do. Now we're going to have to dig down and decide what we want to do. I have been on council for 4 years, and there's been several times that we've been told, you've got to approve this or you're not going to get grants down the road. You've got to approve this or you're not going to get grants down the road. Well, this went away, and there was no way to get grants down the road anyway. So as far as looking at grants down the road, in my mind, that's off the table. 20 years from now, are we going to go all electric? We can't see into the future. But it would really be nice if Cortez was ready for it if we did. If we don't, we've just wasted a whole bunch of money. So that's my little ditty, and it's going to have to be up to every council member to make a decision. And right now, I agree that we adopt everything, but I really hear what Councilmember Randall has had to say. I think it's something getting shoved down our throats, and it's, hey guys, you do this because we're telling you that's the best thing for the city of Cortez. Denver doesn't know what's the best thing for the city of Cortez. We do.
Regardless of the way the vote goes, I would like to put that waiver process as a backup. Like, I don't know which way it's gonna go, but if we deny it, it doesn't matter. If we approve it, it's be good to have a waiver in there. Can we add a little amendment to the language to include a waiver during the permitting process?
I believe that the waiver is included in the actual code.
Yes, the waiver will occur either way. It just doesn't specify how or who approves it, and I think
So I'm making the recommendation to put that on the staff level instead of the council level and include it in a pre-existing process.
And there's no way to do the exemption. It has to be cost related. There's no way to do an exemption if someone's building their dream home and they're saying, I will never have an EV vehicle or anything like that. They can't exempt it because they don't want that stuff in there. It has to be cost related.
correct. The code, if you adopt it, only allows the waiver based on the added cost.
I don't think I want to approve the Colorado Model Electric Ready and Solar Ready Code. I do, under necessity, think we need to do all the other ordinances because they have safety issues. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards.
I would agree. I'd like to update all of them, but this one doesn't. I'm not a fan of this particular portion of it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, this is second reading. Did I open this up to the public? No, you haven't yet. Is there anybody in the public who wishes to comment? You may, Mr. Lindsay.
Good evening, everybody. One thing that's not being discussed is the impact to your electrical grid in this community. You're going to drive, we're going to have to reconductor some of these lines. We're going to have to hang bigger transformers, and that cost is passed on to your ratepayers. And your affordable housing costs now with rates are getting pretty high. So you're going to pass those costs on to those people that are already affected by those rates. And we've already have one substation in our system that's at capacity now. Those substations are $5 million apiece. So divide that by your ratepayers. That's it.
Before you leave, your qualifications to give us that information?
I sit on the board of directors of Empire Electric. I'm the vice president.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me. If I could ask a question to Commissioner Lindsay. So because of that extra load on that, isn't this built in to incentivize people to potentially go with solar? Is that the purpose of it?
You can generate solar and you can buy power, but the size of the wire will only handle so much electricity. It's like putting water in a garden hose.
Okay, so
yeah.
So we have solar panels. This gives incentive to incentivize people to have solar panels, and we don't have the capability to accept that energy or electricity into the system.
Right now, we can accept quite a bit, but down the road, it's going to get to a point where we can't.
So what's a solution from an Empire Electric standpoint?
Raise your rates and build new lines and transformers.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Maybe even put new poles because the weight of the transformers and wires may outstretch the engineering of those poles.
Okay, thanks.
Counselor, I have a question, or city mayor at this point in time. What does it, if we wanted to separate these issues out and separate the Colorado Model Electric Ready and Solar Ready code out to be voted on separately, we could do that via, what would be the maneuverings in order to do that, at least to be able to exercise our home rule rights if we chose to go that way?
You could make a motion to approve the ordinance as amended, if your goal was to not approve the solar ready, electric and solar ready code, and say, basically, I move to approve this ordinance with the exception of the amendment adding the solar ready code. And obviously, if council approves it, then all the others are approved. That one is not approved. And if council, not a majority, approves that motion as amended, then you'd have to open it up for another motion.
So in order to have a vote on the Colorado Model Electric Ready and Solar Ready,
Yeah, you just exclude it from this ordinance, so
but we could talk about that or vote on that separately? Because I'm sure there are council members up here that feel strongly one way or the other about the Colorado Model Electric Ready and Solar Ready code. While I'm sure the majority, I would think the majority of us are very much in favor of the other code adoptions. So is there a way to vote on the other code adoptions and vote on the Colorado Model Electric Ready, Solar Ready code separately?
No, I don't think, because you only have one ordinance that's been published and part of the vote. So if you somebody can make a motion that asks for approval of the ordinance excluding the Solar Ready code, and if a majority passes that, then you're done, and it doesn't get approved. Now, if there are other portions of the various codes that are before you that somebody doesn't like, then they might want to vote no on that motion as well and make another motion that excludes another portion of the proposed number of codes that are before you. But I would think the simplest way would just be for somebody, if you don't want to approve the Solar Ready code, that you make a motion to approve the ordinance 1367 with the exclusion of the electric and solar ready, the model electric solar ready code. And if you get a second, then you vote on it. And if four of you want to keep the electric code in, then your motion would be defeated. If four of you agree, then you're done.
And we'd have the option of bringing up the Model Electric Ready and Solar Ready code at a later date to have further discussion on it if the council so chose.
Sure, yeah, you could make that a separate, it wouldn't be any action that you take tonight, other than if you chose to not approve it tonight and exclude it from this ordinance. And then if it's the will of council to bring it back as a singular ordinance for just that code, that could occur at a later date.
I feel like we've had a lot of discussion around the code. I don't know. The only thing we're missing is like why we would adopt it. And we haven't heard that argument, but we've heard numerous arguments and not against adopting it.
But if it has legislative mandate, how does that impact our decision then?
It comes down to us having home rule and having the ability to not do so. With the risk of whatever that risk would be, but we have to take that willingly, and we have to, and I'm not sure on the full consequences of that. We've heard talk about insurance, but that's nullified by the fact that there's really nothing safety-oriented in that code at all. It's really a mandate for other things, unless Councillor Coleman can enlighten us differently, and that and the grants, the ability that we might not be able to qualify for some grants in the future. That's a risk.
Solar does seem to be something at the federal level that flip-flops back and forth depending on the administration. And insurance less so, like a lot of topics, but solar seems to have been a hot one in the last 12 years or so. I don't think that if there's money in the future, we could be excluding ourselves. I don't know. This is a hard one for me. I honestly am struggling with following the plot.
Mr. Mayor, Council, may I clarify? This is the model electric ready, solar ready. Homes and commercial businesses would have to have the ability to, at any point down the future, any future owner, to easily hook up to the system. Now, one of the state's pushes, and they have a moving date. Right now, they're pushing to have everything in Colorado electric only by 2040. So one, on your standard residential home, the cost of your HVAC system, all of your mechanicals, everything that this would involve is more along the lines of $70,000 to $80,000 on a $300,000 home. I really don't see meeting the minimum standards of the codes exceeding the 1% of that. So that, just kind of a different way to look at it. None of these homes or businesses are mandated to hook up to the electric grid immediately. You can still have gas, you can have everything else. Most spec homes built now, there's a 220-volt plug for your dryer and a gas outlet for your dryer, the same way with your oven in range. So in a way, they're already doing most of this. It would be some additional space in your breaker box, additional conduit run up into the attic. That's it. Standard home right now has a roof system that is built to withstand solar panels on the roof, excluding any ground mounts. So all that is already built into what's existing. So I don't really see this exceeding, in rare instances, depending on what people choose, you could exceed the 1% different cost differential, but I don't think that's going to happen very often.
And
So in instance, we're dickering over less than 1%.
Yes, ma'am.
And Sean, can you clarify, it doesn't mandate that you install a charging station for EV?
Correct. You just have to be ready for it.
Have to
You
have
the
it
conduit,
wired in case some
boxes and conduit,
instance.
everything in place, but not the actual appliances or the charging issues.
this could affect resale value. I'm worried, again, I go back to the liability, and correct me if I'm wrong, Manager Sanders, but could this potentially come back and haunt us if we did not pass this and a homeowner comes to us and says, you know, I'm having a hard time with selling my home because I don't have these things that were mandated?
No, but it may actually prove to increase the value slightly that things are ready. I mean, you know, anytime you get a home that there's more ready, I mean, I don't know that it's going to decrease the value of it, but it could serve to increase the value of it if, you know, somebody finds that valuable during their purchase process.
The most competitive argument I've heard tonight is Commissioner Lindsay's, and I really want to thank you for standing up and speaking about your experience with LP. That I'm really tired. I would like to know how many homes would have to be built to tip that over the pushing point, and like we got to put in new breakers and change our entire infrastructure, because we're dickering over less than 1%.
It wouldn't affect the electricity that's being used if they just put it in. It's just ready to go. So it wouldn't affect until they hooked up.
Yeah, and
So
Mayor
we
and
could
Council,
never-
just to answer that, I mean, if we're talking during the building process itself, it's minimal. I mean, you're already putting all these things in. It's when you're going back and retrofitting a home is when that turns a little more costly. But I will also say that depending on what you're doing, it's a little more costly. Having done this in my personal home, I'm telling you, it really wasn't that much. So just something to consider. But building an actual home, you're already tearing into it. You're adding about, you're not talking an awful lot.
I talked to some contractors before I was trying to develop a position on this, and they indicated to me that it was in the $20,000 to $30,000 range. So are you telling me that's not true?
For your total HVAC, all your mechanical
No,
system?
for adding in the conduit, the space on the roof, the space for, because it's not just that you have to have wiring for an electric water heater or an electric dryer. You've got to have the space for it. You have to be ready to hook it up, literally.
Correct.
So have I been told wrong on this? Are you 100% confident that it's in the minimal range? Because I keep hearing the terms like minimal. I'm not. I'd like to understand what that means.
I'm 99% confident.
And what range would that put that in? I mean, as far as a 1,800 square foot house.
Again, your average house already has an oven, a dryer, hot water heater. So the space is already there. You're not increasing the overall square footage of the home that you would need. And again, your roof system on a standard 30-pound roof snow load, which we have here, will support a full solar system on the roof. We're not adding anything as far as square footage, additional building. Literally, it is boxes and conduits and having everything in place. Basically, instead of tearing into your wall to run your wiring, you pull off the box cover and you feed the wire up to where it needs to go. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm waiting for a motion if we have one.
I move that City Council approve on second reading ordinance number 1367, Series 2026, an ordinance adopting the 2024 ICC codes, the 2023 NFPA 70 code, and the 2023 Colorado Model Electric Ready and Solar Ready code.
I would like to add the amendment that we put the waiver calculation as part of the permitting process on the burden and onus of staff. And then I'll second that motion if you agree to that, Bill.
That's fine.
All right.
Motion made by Lewis, seconded by West.
Wolf,
Yes.
Osborne,
No.
West,
Yes.
Randall,
No.
Lewis,
Yes.
Swope, Sproul.
Yes.
Motion passes 5 yes, 2 no.
Moving on to 7, new business, ordinance number 1369, Series 2026. Council will consider on first reading an ordinance to amend the city code to implement charter changes as a result of the April 7th, 2026 municipal election. Presenter is Patrick Coleman, our city attorney.
If you'll recall, when we submitted the ballot issues to be approved by the voters for amending the charter, one of the big concerns was that we adopt implementing ordinances to ensure that those changes occur and without further action. And we did have a problem recently where we discovered that the council never adopted an ordinance changing the rec center sales tax, and as a result of that, we've had to take some actions that are resulting in a sales tax holiday. To avoid that issue, we went through and looked at all of the changes that the voters did approve, and fortunately, only 2 items required further council action in order to implement them. One is that the old charter specified the dollar amount that council and the mayor receive. The change that was approved by the voters allows council to set that amount from time to time by ordinance, and it specified that council could not give itself a raise, that any increase in those amounts would have to occur for the next council that is seated. But the key is you need to set the current amount by ordinance because it was deleted from the charter. So the proposed change in this ordinance says that the current $400 and $500 amounts will be approved and essentially preserve the status quo for council pay. Now, if you want to increase those amounts for a future council, you would need to propose a new ordinance at some time before the new council is seated in 2 years. The other issue is that the charter had a provision that council meetings would occur at City Hall, and the change to the charter indicates that the council, upon determination that there is a emergency, will has the ability to change the location of the meeting. And there is a provision in the current code that says that all council meetings will be at City Hall. So this ordinance would include that language that allows the council to change the location in the event of an emergency. Those are the only two changes, and I would certainly recommend that the emergency language for the location of the meeting be adopted. Otherwise, your code will be in conflict with the charter. The payment issue, I think at a minimum you should adopt some amount. It doesn't have to be 400 and 500. It could be less. It can't be more. But in order to continue being paid, I recommend that you adopt some amount, either the status quo or something less than that. So I'm open to questions.
I just want to clarify, because I think a couple of these were hot topic items for the community. And so I think it's just important to maybe clarify that this is not giving current council raises or the ability to give themselves raises. This is for next incoming council, and also that Zoom meetings are for, like you mentioned, emergency reasons. I've personally had to deal with entities that their buildings have flooded or collapsed or caught on fire. So having that ability to have Zoom meetings to continue business as normal is very important when there are emergent situations that come up like that. So I just wanted to let the public know, because I know that there was some backlash on a few of these items from the community.
And just to clarify, last fall, council passed an ordinance authorizing remote participation by council members, and it lists a number of rules and regulations that apply to that. In order to eliminate a possible conflict between that ordinance and the charter, the authorization for remote participation was included as an amendment to the charter, and that the voters approved that. So you already have an ordinance on the books that allows for remote participation. Now, the emergency issue is a separate issue, and in terms of the location of the meeting, the charter says council can change the location in an emergency. And then, of course, the definition of an emergency is dependent upon the decision of council. And so definitely to maintain consistency between the code and the charter, I would recommend that you approve that provision in the ordinance.
And I'd like to remind the council too, this is first reading, so we're gonna get in this.
Second reading.
This is second reading?
Is it? Oh, okay.
This is first reading, so we're gonna go more in depth than if it is passed on, so I just want to let everybody to realize that.
So I move that City Council approve on first reading, approve on first reading, ordinance number 1369, Series 2026, an ordinance amending the Cortez City Code, implement the certain charter amendments that were approved by the voters on April 7th, 2026, and set the ordinance for second reading and public hearing on July 14th, 2026.
Second.
Motion made by Randall, seconded by Swope.
West,
Yes.
Swope,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes.
Randall,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Sproul.
Yes. We'll move on to item number 7B, a memorandum of understanding and MOU between the City of Cortez and Evergreen Redevelopment West LLC. City Council will consider the selection of Evergreen Redevelopment West LLC, Evergreen, as the developer of affordable multifamily rental housing on city-owned property located on the West 7th Street and between South Oak and South Chestnut Street, and approve a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, between the city and Evergreen that details the obligations of each party in connection with the proposed development. Our presenter is Jason Armstrong.
Thank you again, Council. The city has reached another milestone in progress towards the development of the Park Village Apartments. So tonight, I'm presenting to you for consideration the Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Cortez and Evergreen. The MOU document before you was vetted by the city attorney, the city's low-income housing tax credit attorney, the city's contract housing coordinator, Project Moxie, and legal counsel for Evergreen. Council was also afforded the opportunity to review the MOU and ask questions in an executive session on May 26th. So the MOU establishes a framework and mutual commitments between both parties as we proceed towards a formal purchase and sale agreement and the financing, design, and construction of the project. Staff wants to stress that this is a pre-development agreement, not a binding sale or construction contract. So in brief, the MOU accomplishes the following. It identifies the city-owned parcel on which the affordable housing project will be developed and reserves the adjacent parcel for a city park. It commits both parties to negotiate in good faith toward a purchase and sales agreement. It establishes Evergreen's obligation to apply for low-income housing tax credits to finance the project. It outlines the city's role in supporting financing efforts and community engagement, sets cost, responsibility, and reimbursement parameters, and defines the term, termination triggers, and principal contacts for each party. For the benefit of the community who may be participating in person or remotely this evening, staff wants to stress that the 7 acres of the 14-acre parcel continues to be set aside for a community park, as was the original intent of the land banking grant received from Great Outdoors Colorado. The development of the park will be led by the Parks and Rec Department and is a separate project from the housing development. So in essence, by signing this MOU, the City Council is formally choosing to work with Evergreen as the preferred developer on this project. So at this point, staff can recommend that Council select Evergreen as the project developer, approve the MOU, and authorize the mayor to sign it. Additionally, staff recommend that Council authorize the city manager to enter into negotiations for the purchase and sales agreement for the property on 7th Street, with final decision resting with City Council. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Jason, if I could interrupt, can you step back a moment and discuss the process by which Evergreen was the preferred developer? Because the
Yes, sir.
council has not approved them yet, and
Yes, the process is outlined in the staff report. We did go through a competitive request for qualifications process. This was last year in, forgive me, I think we did that process in the fall, September. That committee that reviewed that spanned across all the city departments, also had representation from council on that committee. We went through a very intensive process, as we do with all of our procurement, and checked all the background references. We interviewed the top 2 proposals. And at that point, we determined that Evergreen had scored appropriately and that we should move forward in negotiations with them. From that point on, we've been communicating with Evergreen as we've moved towards this point. This MOU, again, is not, it's not a contract designed to set construction or, allow the Evergreen to move forward without city approval. We want to maintain as much oversight and control over the negotiations as they move forward.
Council have any questions?
No, I would just say that this is pretty straightforward, and as Jason mentioned, it's not a contract. So with that, I move that council select Evergreen Redevelopment West LLC as the developer of affordable multifamily rental housing on city-owned property located on West 7th Street. Approve the memorandum of understanding between the city and Evergreen and authorize the mayor to sign the MOU, authorize the city manager to negotiate a purchase and sale agreement for the 7th Street property with the final purchase price to be approved by city council.
Second.
Motion by Lewis, seconded by Wolf.
Osborne,
Yes.
Swope,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Randall,
Yes.
Sproul.
Yes. Item number C, resolution number 12, series 2026. Council will consider amending the 2026 fee schedule originally adopted by resolution number 15, series 2025. Presenter is Danielle Wells, our city clerk.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The fee schedule is usually adopted annually in the December of the prior year. So our 2026 fee schedule was adopted in December of 2025. During the course of this year, staff has noted some errors and rates that need to be adjusted. And incorporating these changes now, rather than waiting until our 2027 fee schedule, will help with cost recovery in our city operations. A basic overview of some of the fees are adjusting the replacement of library card costs after 5 losses, adding processing fees, adding a lifeguard cadet program, and adjusting a playground days summer discount fee. Additionally, we are asking to add a criminal justice fee section, which would align any requests that are submitted to the police department for criminal justice records to be the PD will be allowed to charge the requester a fee for the records that are processed. Right now, there's no fee that is charged. We are asking that it be matched with our current CORA process, which is $41.37 per hour, with the first hour being free. And additionally, in the planning and building department section, there's a change in the cash in lieu requirement adjustment, which needs to be corrected annually. If council has any questions, all the department heads are here to help explain any of the requested fees and changes.
Anybody have any questions?
I think it all looked very straightforward. Thank you, everyone, for putting that information there.
I move that council approve Resolution 12, Series 2026, a resolution amending the 2026 fee schedule for the city of Cortez.
I second.
Motion made by Randall, seconded by Wolf.
Osborne,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Randall, Wolf,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Swope,
Yes.
Sproul.
Yes. Moving on to item number D, new application for a hotel and restaurant liquor license. We need to set a public hearing date and neighborhood boundaries for a new hotel and restaurant liquor license for Pitchers on Main LLC located at 9 West Main Street, Cortez. Our presenter is Danielle Wells.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, Pictures on Main Street, or Pictures on Main LLC filed an application in the city clerk's office on May 18th, 2026. Council is directed by state statutes to determine the needs and desires of the neighborhood and to verify that the applicant is of good character. This is the property where Once Upon a Sandwich was located. Their liquor license has expired, so therefore we cannot do a transfer of ownership. This is why we're having a new license application. State regulations require that the local licensing authority schedule a public hearing at least 30 days from the date of the application and to set the neighborhood boundaries. Public notice will be given by posting on the premises itself, and a notice will also be placed in the Cortez Journal. Staff is requesting that council set a public hearing date of Tuesday, July 14th, 2026, and set the neighborhood boundaries as the Cortez city limits.
Anyone have any questions of Danielle?
I'm glad that'll be opening as a business again. That's exciting.
I move that City Council set a public hearing date of Tuesday, July 14th, 2026 for review of a new hotel and restaurant liquor license for the Pictures on Main LLC and set the neighborhood boundaries as the Cortez city limits.
I second.
Motion made by Lewis, seconded by Wolf.
Osborne,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Swope,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes.
Randall,
Yes.
Sproul.
Yes. It does sound nice to have another business coming into Cortez. Item number E, appointments to various boards and commissions. Council will consider making a total of 5 appointments to the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Advisory Board. Our presenter is Danielle Wells.
Yes, this evening we had one applicant, Mr. Bruce Burkett, for the Planning and Zoning Commission. There's only one seat available. There's only one seat open on the Planning and Zoning Commission. This work session, council interviewed Mr. Nico Esco for the Parks and Recreation and Forestry Advisory Board. The 2 weeks ago work session, 4 other community members were interviewed for that same board. So now we're asking that council make a determination if they would choose to appoint Mr. Bruce Burkett to Planning and Zoning and pick 4 of the 5 for the Planning and Zoning, or for the Parks and Rec Board, or we can continue to advertise for these positions.
Any comments by council?
I was just I had notes that it sounded like one of the applicants for Parks and Rec, Mr. Dave Stam, it sounded like he wasn't going to be able to make the meetings, and so I think having the other 4 who very astoundedly said yes, that they could commit to that, I just put their names in, so.
And I agree. I 100% agree with that.
And in regards to Bruce Burkett, I think he's shown his commitment. He ran for city council. I think this is a great way to get his foot in the door and learn more about the city. So I would approve him as well.
So I would move to appoint Bruce Burkett to the Planning and Zoning Commission to complete a term ending May 2027, and Steve Moore, Stephen Eder, Alan Klein, and Nico Esco to the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Advisory Board for 2-year terms.
Second.
Motion made by Randall, seconded by Lewis.
West,
Yes.
Swope,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Randall,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes.
Sproul.
Yes. Moving on to F, a proposed draft policy for agendizing city council proclamations. A draft of a proposed city policy for agendizing. I'm not very good at that, am I? Future city council proclamations. Presenter is Drew Sanders, our city manager.
Yes, Mayor and Council, as mentioned, it's time to perhaps put together some guidelines and requirements for city council proclamations. However, it is nearly 10 o'clock at night, and I'm not sure that this is really pressing, and I think there's going to be a lot of comments on this. I would like to suggest to council that we consider continuing this into July.
I would like to move to continue this in July.
As a mayor, let's continue this until July.
I'm so sorry, Mayor.
We're going to continue this matter until July. We'll put it on the next agenda. We'll go on to number 8, our draft resolutions ordinances. We have none. City attorney's report,
No report.
city manager's report.
I have a report, but I would like to post it on the website and save you all the pain.
Thank you. City council committee reports? None?
Parfab is meeting on Thursday, so stay tuned.
Mr. Lewis?
I talked about the golf course. We met on May 29th. I gave the revenues. Also, the rounds at the golf course are up 7,991 rounds in 2026 and 7,539 rounds in 2025. We went over the survey that was very positive, and we started discussion on the 2027 budget and talked about the irrigation needs.
Okay, we'll move right along to the mayor's report on the workshop. We did have a workshop today. We interviewed some members for commissions on boards. We interviewed for Parks and Rec and Forestry Advisory Board, as well as Planning and Zoning Commission. We had our official photos taken outside the city hall. We discussed lodger's tax. There's going to be more to come on that. And then we had a general discussion. We don't have any other board reports. Public participation. Is there anybody in the crowd would like to have something? Number 13, other items of business. We have an executive session, negotiation of a new treated water agreement with U Mountain Ute Tribe.
Mr. Mayor, I move that council go into executive session pursuant to CRS Section 24-6-4024E for the purpose of determining positions relative to the matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and/or instructing negotiators concerning the negotiation of a new treated water agreement with the Ute Mountain Tribe.
Second.
Motion made by Lewis, seconded by Osborne.
Wolf,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Swope,
Yes.
Randall, Sproul.
Yes. Unless your mean city manager makes you stay, I think the city staff can leave. Is that all right with you, sir? It is still June 9th, 2026, and the time is 10:06 p.m. The executive session has concluded and council has reconvened into open session. Those persons participating in the executive session were myself, Dennis Spruill, Mayor Pro Tem Bill Lewis, council members April Randall, Kathleen Swope, Carly Wolf, Clarissa Osborne, and Claire West. Also participating were City Manager Drew Sanders and City Attorney Patrick Coleman. No adoption of any proposed policy, position, resolution, rule, regulation, or formal action occurred during this executive session. If any member of council or a member of the public believes that the subject matter of the executive session was not statutorily authorized, or that the discussion that occurred in executive session strayed from the announced subject matter, please speak up now. Seeing none, I will accept a nomination to adjourn this meeting.
Before the nomination to adjourn, may I say one thing?
Turn on your,
I'm going to ask, request that I be able to participate in the remote meeting that we're, remotely on the meeting that we're having July the 14th.
you know, that's another topic. We never made a decision on who approves it, who doesn't approve it. I mean, it's certainly going to be approved, but
Okay, what are we talking about?
zooming in.
Remote appearance, so we did actually approve that. So how it works is first come, first served. There's only two, and so if I heard you right, you want to appear remotely, Councilmember Randall, on July 14th.
July 14th, is that our, I think we have.
Yeah, if that's the case, the clerk now has that information, we'll get it set up for you. You've just done it.
You were first.
Excuse me, before we adjourn, we need a motion.
You do need a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that council approve City Manager Drew Sanders as the chief negotiator of a new treated water agreement with the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe.
Motion made by Lewis, seconded by Randall.
Swope,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Randall,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes.
Spruill.
Yes. Now we need a motion to adjourn. Huh?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Lewis, seconded by West.
Wolf,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Randall, Swope, West,
Yes.
Spruill.
Yes.